Charles Lati-Baudier is joining us to dive deeper into what is happening. Charles, I mean, shocking is an understatement when you hear the details of this case. What are your thoughts after hearing the indictment yesterday?
Good morning, Brian and Natalie. I got to tell you, my thoughts reading the 14-page indictment yesterday were that there are a lot of people in Hollywood who are probably worried about which Diddy parties they were at and what was going on. That's not to say that they were necessarily even involved in any of the things that are alleged by the U.S. Attorney's Office. But if you're at that party and it turns out that that's when he set up one of these freak-off, that it was going on in another room and you didn't know about it, there's a good chance that you're going to be called by the U.S. Attorney's Office. And certainly if you were involved, you would get a call because they're going to want to know everything you want to know and may even want you to be a witness. I just think, we're just starting to scratch the surface of what this case, this case is going to touch and involve. And the feds have said that this remains an open investigation. There could be more charges for Diddy. There could be more charges for other people involved. And usually the way this works is once they find out other people are involved or were witnesses, they bring them in and they sort of lean on them. And it's sort of like, you're going to cooperate with us, or there's a possibility that you could face charges. So this is going to be a slow developing.
The recent uproar on social media and YouTube regarding arrest warrants allegedly being issued for Hollywood celebrities with ties to Sean Diddy Combs may have caught your attention. That's right, the Hollywood elite, Diddy, and arrest warrants, all in one sentence.
1,000 bottles of baby oil. What surprised you the most about what you read yesterday?
Yeah, I mean, that, Brian, was definitely an alarming graph. Prostitutes that he was bringing in, and that's one of the counts that he's facing. Also is the transportation of individuals for a purpose of prostitution. So really alarming allegations laid out in court. Diddy, of course, has pled not guilty to all of it. And then the real kicker for him at the end of the day was that the judge said you will be held without bail. And that means however long it takes for this trial to begin, he will be in a federal detention facility in Brooklyn, and not a very nice one. In fact, a fairly notorious one. So you got to figure it. He wants out of there, and he wants out as soon as possible.
We're in this era right now, Charles, of men with power falling from grace in Hollywood. And when I think about Harvey Weinstein, that was an open secret in Hollywood for a very long time about what he was doing with victims. Was this also the case with P. Diddy?
When a video with the attention-grabbing title, "Arrest Warrants for Diddy's Associates in Hollywood," surfaced on YouTube, the news went global. Made public by Joe Rogan, who wouldn't click on a title that grabs attention like that.
Individuals involved, and they say this has been going on for more than 10 years, and yet we didn't hear about that. So that means that all the people that were involved, according to the feds, that he managed to keep them all quiet, that nobody would speak about it. And that does sort of speak to the kind of power he wielded and the fear that people had of him. We're also talking about the fact that the beating of Cassie, which was captured on the hotel surveillance video, that was 6 years ago. And
alleged when
nobody knew about it. Nobody heard about it. Think about all the people that were at the hotel who may have known about it, people who saw the surveillance video and never spoke about it. And like you said, we're in an era where when things like that happen, people speak out about it. So the fact that no one did, and that it only took really Cassie's lawsuit before any of this started coming out, it does kind of speak to the power that he wielded, and that the fact that nobody wanted to cross him.
And Charles,
with the help of well-known celebrities, a hint of controversy, and a dash of conspiracy, the film quickly gained widespread popularity, and for good reason. In just 1 week, it garnered over 1 million views, many likes, and a barrage of comments from fans eager to learn which Hollywood figures might be implicated in this purported catastrophe. However, something didn't quite add up as the views accumulated.
happens. Look, he did surrender his passport to his lawyer. We should say the way his team put it out originally, they made it sound like he had turned it over to the authorities. He had turned over his passport back in April to his lawyer, as did his children and his mother. And their point was they wanted to make the case to the court that, look, we're cooperating here. He is not a flight risk. And they feel like the U.S. Attorney's Office undermined that by raiding his hotel on Monday night and arresting him when they say he was in New York because he was more than willing to surrender. In fact, the plan was for him to surrender on Tuesday. And then for some reason, the feds decided to arrest him Monday night. Diddy's attorneys think they did that so that it would look like he wasn't cooperating, and then the judge would deny him bail, which, as it turns out, is what happened.
Well, Charles, thank you so much for your thoughts on this morning. You guys always have so much information behind the scenes there. It is 7:13 a.m. in Los Angeles. Thanks for waking up early with us.
Absolutely. We're up early.
You would expect that the story would be covered by major news outlets given the seriousness of the claims. But this is where everything began to go wrong.
Drives that belonged to the late Kim Porter. And if you follow this story, you'll know that Kim Porter is Diddy's ex-girlfriend and the mother of 4 of his kids. On those drives, the witness says 8 videos featured 8 celebrities at Diddy free officer parties, and that 6 were males, 2 were females. The drive also included a manuscript of an alleged Kim Porter memoir, a memoir that her 4 kids insist is fake. Courtney Burgess told his story on a podcast before he told the grand jury today, and after he told the grand jury, and I mean immediately after, he booked it over to my set, and he and his attorney talked to me. I should tell you that he was very limited in how much detail he could go into about his testimony. And because the 8 people in the videos, the 8 celebrities in the videos were allegedly victims, we know who they are, but we will not be naming them, famous or not. Here now is my conversation with Courtney Burgess and Ariel Mitchell, who's his attorney, beginning with the question of whether the participants in the video even knew they were being recorded. Were there any cameras in places where you'd assume privacy, like bathrooms?
Well, I've never been in this house, but the picture, yes. That's where it took place, yes.
You're aware.
The video wasn't precisely what it appeared to be. In actuality, it had no basis in reality. Rather, it was merely speculation that had gotten out of hand. To find the truth, let's examine the matter more closely.
You're aware of surreptitious cameras that were recording in private places like bathrooms.
I didn't see the cameras. You could tell how the person was angled. I knew that it was a camera there because I was there. I was there. I don't know if the person was too tall. Looking for me, they said, the paperwork said the 24th, that I had to be there the 28th, and then it was the 27th. I said, I can't make it there, that's tomorrow. So I don't know. From the look of it, it was 4 days.
And I want to be specific. When we talk about a raid, we're talking about when a subpoena is served for documents, a search warrant or an arrest warrant. In this situation, Mr. Burgess was not in any way, shape, or form had a search warrant or an arrest warrant issued for him. It was just them serving a subpoena. So when the federal government needs to serve a subpoena, they use the Marshal Service to come to all of your residences if you have more than one residence. So in this situation, they sent marshals to all of Mr. Burgess's residences, and that was somehow construed or understood or turned into a raid, but he did not face a raid. It was just to serve him a subpoena.
Ariel, do you believe that the subpoenas were issued and executed based on the federal authorities' knowledge that these flash drives existed and had this kind of compromising material?
I think it was based on statements that Mr. Burgess made in a prior interview.
First, let's talk about the actual video. On his podcast, Joe Rogan brought up Diddy's current legal issues. He continued by playing news footage regarding Diddy's arrests, legal troubles, and even search warrants that were purportedly carried out at his estates. which only served to fan the flames. The video felt frighteningly realistic because it was so well made.
What he could, given the limitations imposed on him after testifying before the grand jury. Out of those 8 videos, 8 celebrities, 6 men and 2 women, how many of those 8 celebrities were close to being underage or potentially underage?
2 males.
2 males. And of those 8...
I just want to preface it by, he wouldn't know if they were. Right,
sure.
Appear to
Let
be.
me rephrase it.
Based on, yes.
Understand. Out of the 8 celebrities who were recorded having intimate relations with Sean Combs, how many of them appeared to be either inebriated or intoxicated or under the influence?
All of them. All of them.
Out of those 8, how many appeared to be potentially victimized? How many might have been victimizing?
I think all, to be honest, all.
Were victims?
They victims.
Or were perpetrating?
Victims.
They were, all 8 were victimized.
Yeah.
Meaning
victim.
This was happening to them and they were inebriated.
Right. Not knowing, I guess, how much proof it was in it, what they was doing.
And of those 8, how many seemed to be potentially minors?
2 to 3, possibly 3.
2 to 3. Also on the flash drives, Courtney, was what looked to be a manuscript written by, it appears to be a woman who had taken Kim Porter's private journals and had written a book. Is that accurate?
We don't know.
I don't know
how,
I don't know how, who wrote it, put it together, but it was from her.
The writers also incorporated brief excerpts from news events in which Diddy's lawyers appeared. Arrest warrants for other celebrities, however, were never discussed. To provide the sense that something important was happening, the video used a potent combination of real facts and deft editing.
What you received on the flash drives, was it the completed book or was it notes from Kim Porter that later were made into a book?
It was completed. It's only 60, it's only about 54 pages.
Sure, and in the beginning, it says, Kim made me promise that if something happened to her, I would make sure this book became public to the world. The way Sean moved, I knew that was a promise I would have to fulfill. Kim knew I was
It's complete form, so I think just to make sure we have some clarity here, the manuscript that Mr. Burgess received was already in its complete form. It's not that he edited it or changed anything.
Got it.
He did give it to someone else who then edited it, but that's not how he received it.
Okay, so Ariel, did your client, Courtney, receive the book from the woman who seems to have written it, saying, I'm a woman of my word, and this book is going to make it to print?
I don't know if he received it from a man or a woman. He can answer that.
I received it from a man. I tell you, somebody she was dating.
Do you know if the notes from the book really were from Kim Porter?
It was, yes, because I spoke to her probably like 6 hours before I got it, received it.
The creator of the video had a knack for captivating viewers. Interest was piqued by the thumbnail alone, which included photoshopped pictures of Jennifer Lopez and Joe Rogan being carried away by federal officials while seemingly in handcuffs. Naturally, the photos were severely edited to look realistic, probably with the help of artificial intelligence. However, people couldn't resist clicking after just one look.
Jid Lee said she would pay off someone to basically testify in her behalf in millions. So what do you think that does to this case, if anything?
Okay, now that was for a different case. It's not for the federal case, it's for a civil case. She's suing him for money for rape and for distributing a tape of them raping her. It could do a couple of things. I think it affects her credibility. I also think it affects the credibility of all people who are brought out, because one of the refrains by his defense has been that, you know, these are meritless claims. So that is a problem. But I can also say this. She may have been telling, and this was her ex-boyfriend, boyfriend at the time, that I'll pay you to testify. and basically $3 million, he might be reluctant to testify,
right?
Because he's afraid of what repercussions might come, not only from Diddy and his entourage, but also from Diddy supporters. We know that they've come out and been very vocal in favor of Diddy. So though that money could be for him to come in and testify and get over his fear of testifying.
But I also think the timing is something else, because that kind of message getting out there when you have a trial for criminal charges in federal court also says to people, hey, you can't believe what these victims are saying. They're making stuff up against me.
You've got things on both sides. Remember when they released that beating video?
Yes, the one that they're saying leaked.
Diddy's attorneys are claiming that the government leaked that to turn the tide against him. They may have had a hand in releasing this information to sort of, turn the tide back for him. So
exactly.
It's a lot of games being
There's
played.
a lot of stuff coming up, and Emanuela Grin.
The emergence of such sensational content draws attention to a developing problem in the digital era, the mixing of fact and fiction to increase interaction. Even while these videos are enjoyable and well-made, they have the potential to deceive viewers and spread misleading information. They frequently overshadow factual news by taking advantage of the public's interest with celebrity crises and conspiracy theories. It's important for us as media consumers to view viral information critically and check the sources before taking dramatic claims at face value. Both spectators and artists have an obligation to separate fact from fiction and uphold ethical standards.